Namu Amida Butsu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, whichever realms of existence you are, whatever mind states you're in, whatever conditions you're in. As always, you're welcome to my channel. Welcome to the ocean of the vow. Immerse yourself. Yes, today I'd like to talk about a topic that's related to the Shinjin Club. This is another more current video that I didn't make several months ago, or almost a year ago, because I got a big backlog. But there's going to be videos you're going to see in the future, just like the other one I was just talking about, that stem from the Shinjin Club question, really. What do we do in the meantime as people of not settled Shinjin yet? What do we do both with ourselves? This part is going to be the, what do we do, not just for comfort when the pain of life arises, or, just the difficulties of samsaric existence, or the devastations or loss or whatever it is, the sufferings of how do we get comfort? That was that episode 14 of Bamboo and Davy Life that I did about the Shinjin Club aspect, and what do we do in the meantime before we're people of subtle Shinjin. So this is related to that, and this is another one that's been with me a long time that needs addressing. And these are the ones where if I can't get a good answer, when I haven't so far, if I can't really get a good answer to these, it could be a deal breaker. That could be the breaking, because I've explored many spiritual paths, and my criteria for them is pretty high. They need to, because if they're true, they're going to address my entire existence. They're gonna address my life as it is, as it's been. They're going to jive with my experience. They're going to have the truth is going to be evident mentally, emotionally, in every way, in every aspect of experience, is going to be, and there's also not going to be a hole in it. There's not going to be a weakness in it. And whenever I've explored spiritual paths, I always find the weakness. I will find the weakness, and I give them all a fair chance. I've given them all a fair chance, but they've been found wanting. And Buddhism was always the one that wasn't in the end. Some are better than others. Buddhism has been at the top. Taoism next. And when I say Taoism, I mean all the Taoic religions. So Taoism probably at the top, then Confucianism, and then as well as Shintoism. I kind of consider Shinto a part of the Taoic religions. I just wanted to interject that before I get to the next. Other dharmic paths after that. Just want to interject again something I meant to say here as well, just before the next one is, the next in the list would be shamanism. Sort of pagan, naturalistic, spiritually based paths after that. Probably some aspects of esotericism after that. And then way beneath all of that are the monotheistic religions, which are the worst. The Abrahamic religions, and everything that stems from them and is associated with them, and their influence in the world, and their evidence to me that we have really bad collective karmic causes and conditions, that those religions exist in our world. So I've explored, and I find the weakness, and I think I'm coming. I've been actually, I saw this a long time ago in Jodo Shinshu Shin Buddhism. I saw this weakness in other power Buddhism about Shinjin, and there's the weakness in addressing it. The other question I had and the related things to that, as well as what I'm going to talk about now. When these questions are asked that focus on, well, what do we do before Shinjin has arisen and settled? What do we do before then? And I know, the answer is Nembutsu, Dharma Dialogue, deep reflection, etc. But if you press the question, and you frame it the way I have, eventually you get the answer, oh, well, don't worry about it. Just keep doing the things you're meant to do in Jodo Shinshu. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Just keep doing these things, which makes sense in one sense. Yeah, it certainly does make sense. I'm mindful that I have myself said that in my reflections to myself, with myself, and also, when I've been doing episodes or recording my reflections for my YouTube channel, I have said the same thing, so there is part of me that sees the truth of that experiences the truth of that, but there is still part of me that doubts it, that truly, deeply doubts it. So anyway, that's what I needed to interject there. But it's a cop-out in another. It's a weak answer. That's a weak answer for actually answering the question or actually responding to the question. And then there's some, they try to legitimize that don't worry about it because, well, there's no time, in Buddhism, there's no time, or in Buddhism, the interval of time is now. So just focus on the now, and we're not, because it's only our bamboo mind, it's our calculative mind that starts thinking about, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? It's just our calculative mind. That's another thing, right? There's a lot of things like where you ask a question and the answer is, oh, that's just your calculative bamboo mind, your ignorant, foolish being mind, which that's, again, you can see the weakness in that kind of an answer, right? You can see that's an answer, that's a response from weakness, not from strength. Yeah. So instead of answering it from their experience before they were like, this is, again, it comes back to, and you often get that answer from people who are people of settled Shinjin, or in the Shinjin club, as I say. And it's like, well, have you forgotten what your experience was like before that? Why can't you articulate how you approached it? Why can't you articulate, why can't you put your mind and think about that and go, oh yeah, so now that I've experienced this, I can take my experience now of settled Shinjin and entrusting without doubt and the assurance that I have. I can take that and realize in Amida's working that I need to kind of look at my past experience before I did experience Shinjin, before Shinjin did arise and fully settle, to communicate a better answer for someone who's asking these questions. And I just haven't. I mean, I'm not saying this, I'm not disparaging any particular person, and I'm deeply grateful for all the time that people have spent with me like Hyokan and Johan and other people in the past that have spent lots of time with me talk in Dharma Dialogue. I'm very appreciative of that, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm very, very, very grateful for that immensely. And that's been a huge part of my life for the past 20 years. But that, we're meant to ask these questions ruthlessly. We're meant to jump over the hedge and speak up and leave no stone unturned. And apparently I'm being empowered to do so by Amida, to even see these questions, to see the light is shining so I can see these questions. The light of Amida lets me see these questions. So they need answering. They need responding to. And I just hope this isn't the thread that I'm pulling in Jodo Shinshu, in Shin Buddhism, that is going to be that's the weak aspect of this spiritual path. I'm hoping that isn't the case. I'm hoping that isn't the case. And related to this question is a really hard question. This one's really gonna, and it might, I don't ask it to offend anyone. I don't ask it to be provocative or controversial or anything like that. But I'm gonna say it because this is a doubt that I have that needs to be removed from the channels of faith, just like all the rest of this that I'm talking about today needs to be addressed and removed, from the channels of faith through Amida's working. But I need to ask it. Part of Amida's process that he's given us is Dharma Dialogue, is raising your questions, raising your doubts, raising your issues, raising your barriers in Dharma Dialogue, in discussion. So that's what I'm doing. Okay. And this is a big one. So this one I've had for a long time too. Okay. And this related to this weakness, that this, in my mind, what appears to be a potential weakness in Jodo Shinshu, in Shin Buddhism, a weakness in the teaching, in the path. Again, I'm a bumble, a foolish being. I realize that, but I got to ask the question. I do have these doubts. I have to ask them. So the question is, this is the big one. This is a huge one. So get ready. That's all I'm saying. Buckle up. What if, talking about Shinran, talking about the man Shinran was as a monk, I can't recall his name at the time, but the man who took the name Shinran and became Shinran Shonin to us, when he was a monk, and came to that realization that 20 years of really deep, hardcore, proper Buddhist practice as a monk got him nowhere. And he realized the snakes and scorpions of his own mind and the utter total lack of progress that he had made on the path of Buddhism, of self-power Buddhism. What if the teaching he came up with in Shin Buddhism and Shinjin specifically, Shin Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu, Shinjin teaching Buddhism, what if that was just a cope to deal with the fact he realized he couldn't do the practice effectively, but didn't want to give up on it. He knew the truth of the Buddhist teachings, but he knew he couldn't do it, and he knew he was going to get nowhere. What if Shinjin, the teaching about Shinjin, and total other power of Buddhism, other powered Buddhism, total other power, absolute other power Buddhism, was just a cope on his part, to cope with his own failure, was just he couldn't, his own catastrophic failure that he couldn't deal with. He couldn't cope with that. So he came up with this cope to deal with it. He took what he saw in other Pure Land teachings that were still self-power or mix of other power and self-power. And he took this to come, because he knew he couldn't even do that in his mind. He couldn't even do the mixed power of Pure Land teachings within the context of broader Buddhism. What if it's just a cope? What if he came up with this whole thing just as a cope? That it has to be asked. That is a doubt. That is a doubt I have. I've had that doubt for a long, long time. What if it's just him coming up with a way to cope with the reality of his life that he couldn't cope with? He couldn't cope with that utter failure and not being able to, which is understandable. It's completely understandable. I can understand why, because I'm a seeker myself. I'm a seeker. I can't cope with. It's hard, there's things that's been hard for me to cope with about life, and it's hard for me to cope with that, the kind of pessimistic, philosophical pessimism that haunts me, that I think is the truth of that there's a doubt that there, in me there's a doubt that there's any spirituality exists at all anywhere in the universe. That there's no spiritual element to the universe. The universe is just moving as it does, doing what it does, and then you die. You just suffer in this horrid universe, and then you die. And this universe that doesn't give a crap about you, that just brings you, that just you come into existence, and then you go out, and that's it. Nothing more. No rebirth, no afterlife, no nothing. No Buddha nature, nothing. I have that doubt. And so I can see, and dealing with that doubt over the years, trying to, I can understand that I don't want that to be true, but I suspect it might be. And, so I can see, so me, that's, in addition to my other experiences in life, that's one thing that's driven me to try to explore and look for the truth, the real experiential, that's a spiritual path that's true in every way, experientially, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, that addresses all of life and all of my whole unique experience of life. It addresses, and everyone's, it addresses everything holistically, fully. And that's what's driven me that's one of the things that eventually was a driving force for me to seek these things. So I can see why putting myself in Shinran's shoes at the time, not that he believed in a philosophical pessimism, but what I mean is him having that, just realizing that moment of failure. And I've been there numerous times, actually, with different things, realizing my utter failure in life, and then seeking some way to cope with that or deal with that or understand that. I've been at that moment several major times. And so I can see why, in that case, after 20 years of being a full-on hardcore monk, doing all kinds of practices and realizing that utter failure, why he would seek a cope. I could see why. So that also reinforces my doubt. So this is something else that eventually needs to addressing. I'm not going to soft paw around that anymore. I'm not going to try to kind of diplomatically and gently and face-savingly just try to discuss this. Nope. Because it needs addressing, it needs discussing. And I remember the other thing. So about the whole don't focus, coming back to the other thing I was talking about, how, eventually you get the answer, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about Shinju. That's a future thing. That's future. That's you're projecting the future. So that's a calculation. That's a bamboo foolish being thing that thinks about time. So don't think about the future. Don't. That's a because you're saying not yet arisen and settled Shinjin. So that's a bamboo mind thing. That's an excuse. That's not a good answer because it's like. That's not a good answer also. And then the other part of that I wanted to say is, how can we not focus on it? How can you say, don't focus on Shinjin, just do Dharma Dialogue, do deep listening, do, read the teachings, discuss your questions, doubts, barriers, do deep reflection, all empowered by Amida, but don't worry about Shinjin. Don't worry about Shinjin. That's because that's other power that's through Amida's working. So don't worry about it. And you're calculating and like that's not a good answer because like how can we not focus on Shinjin? It's the central freaking teaching of the entire teaching of Jodo Shinshu, of Shin Buddhism, of other power Buddhism. It is the teaching. How can you say don't focus on Shinjin? It's the central thing. It's what the entire thing is all about. Like that's just one thing, one way. The entire teaching, every single word that's written in the words of Shinran Shonin, Renyo Shonin, and or Dharma Masters point toward Shinjin. Like so, how do we not focus on it? Tell me that. How do we not focus on the thing that is every single thing points toward and talks about and is meant is the entire religion is about that. Number one. Okay? Number one. That's one aspect. Number two, how can you say don't focus on that when you see people's experience of it and read this experience of it in the teaching about that assurance without doubt, entrusting without doubt, that assurance that you are of all of Buddhist teaching, that first of all that all Buddhist teaching is true. You accept all Buddha, you accept and realize fully without doubt that all Buddhist teaching is true, that you are completely and utterly embraced by Amida without doubt. You entrust Amida without doubt. You are born in Pure Land without doubt. You are brought to the point of non-retrogression without doubt. And all the assurance, that wonderful, and I have a very good imagination. I have a very good perception. So, and it's all illuminated by the light of Amida. So I can see like how wonderful that would be and how amazing that would be and how that would utterly transform your whole outlook on life and your whole experience of life, and how that would be like the ultimate comfort and power and wonderfulness in life. How can you freaking say don't focus on that? How the freak? Seriously, how? How freaking how? Okay? How can you say just those two things alone, that the teaching all focuses on it and the implications of it? How can you say don't focus on that? Give me a freaking break. Give me a freaking break. Okay? Yes, I feel very strong about this because this is the core doubt. This is the core doubt. Along with the other video about, Shinjin, the Shinjin Club, and everything related to that. How can you say don't focus on it? Like, whew. And it becomes a loop. All that becomes a loop and increases doubt. It all increases the doubt because it makes me think, is this thing just a big freaking cope for people? Is this Buddhist path just for people who are able to trick themselves? Is just for people who are able to trick themselves into thinking this and feeling this way, because it is the ultimate cope. Jodo Shinshu, without a doubt, is the ultimate cope. Like, and it's either a true one that because it's based on truth, or it's a cope. It's just a strong cope because of the utter weakness and fallibility of the human psyche for within some people that are able to convince themselves that this is the reality. That's another doubt. I'm not arguing that that's the case. I'm just saying that's another doubt. That's another doubt. So now, whoo, I'm getting to it. We're getting to the heart and the core here of my doubts. And you can see these would be deal breakers. These would be deal breakers. I probably won't ever leave the Jodo Shinshu path. But I'm not going to also let go of these questions either. So, you're going to have to deal with me. If my questions aren't answered, that's like if these questions, these are fundamental questions about Jodo Shinshu. These are core fundamental questions, not just my doubts. These are core fundamental questions that need addressing in the world, that need addressing without wishy-washy rationalizing, blaming the bamboo mind, blaming, oh, it's a calculation, oh, it's a no, not accepting that. Okay. Not gonna happen. So either and I'm not worrying about face saving here. So if face saving is a part of your the basis of what or as a way of maintaining truth and not having to deal with things that threaten your belief system, then good luck to you, because I'm not worrying about face saving here. I'm not worrying about it. And these questions have to be answered. They do. They have to be answered. They have to be addressed. This question needs sort of responding to. The barrier needs removing. The doubt needs removing from the channels of faith. And this is part of the path. I'm working within the path of Jodo Shinshu here in Dharma Dialogue, in raising my questions, doubts, and barriers, and they need removing. And maybe ultimately that's how it has to happen. But again, that's anyway. That's it. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. All right. Take care. All the best until next time.